There will be bad actors in the space. There will be bad actors that try and take your IP. There will be bad actors that basically don't want to see you succeed. What we want to do and what we need to do is actually call that out. That is the only way we will see change.
Hey everyone, welcome to Blockchain North, Canada's first blockchain media. Today I'm speaking to Janelle Chalouhi, who is the founder and CEO of Venus Ventures, a company that aims to inspire a balanced world by engaging, empowering, and enabling a global community to thrive through emerging Web3 technologies. Very excited to have you, Janelle. Before I welcome our guest, if you enjoy these interviews or if you want to support us on our mission, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn your notifications on. This way you'll be notified anytime we release a new video, and we have some great ones coming up. And finally, stay till the end because we will be asking Janelle for her predictions for 2023 and beyond. Janelle, welcome.
Thank you, Flo. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited as well, and it's long overdue. So let's get right into it. And why don't you start by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in the Web3 industry.
Sure. So my name is Janelle Chalouhi, and I am founder and CEO of Venus Ventures. So I've been in the industry for about 1 year and 3 months now, actually. It's been a little while. I was first introduced to Web3. I would say it was early 2020. It was, I would say it's 2017 when I first was introduced to blockchain through Consensus. In one of my old jobs, I actually worked with Consensus a little bit. I understood a lot of what they were doing, what they're trying to do. And I know that they had a mandate to educate. So that's when I actually first got into the blockchain world, and then got into a little bit of crypto in 2020. And 2021 actually is when I was exposed to NFTs. And that, I think, was a pivotal moment for me. Early 2021, my husband actually pointed out NFTs to me. He was reading an article about it and suggested that I should look into it because it was about authenticity, it was about art, it was about tech. And he's like, if this is you got to look into it. So I actually did. And then a few months went by, and essentially what happened in late 2021, I unfortunately had a little bit of a health issue that landed me bedridden for a few weeks, unfortunately. But what it did give me, I always tell people what it did give me was the gift of time. And what that enabled me to do was actually look in more into NFTs and Web3. And as I started reading more into it, and of course realizing that it's Web3 was actually launched as a Canadian through Ethereum, and which was built right here in our region, in the Waterloo region, which is where I'm from, at the University of Waterloo. So Vitalik built it at the university here. And then I was even more intrigued because we obviously have a lot of bandwidth within our tech industry here in Canada. We also are leaders in the AI field. So I obviously gravitated towards all of that, including the incredible tech, and just decided that this is a world that I definitely wanted to dive into. So I actually did my own collection. So I do have a background in art. One of my undergraduate degrees is an art degree, and my other is political science, and then I have a master's degree. But I've always been in the art world, always wanted, my passion also lives in art. But unfortunately, the starving artist is a real syndrome. So I knew that, a lot of artists don't make a lot of money in this space. And, career-wise, I wasn't sure if that was the way to go. But I've always been into art. And so just the fact that the NFTs movement started as art to me, which is a lot of historical movements start as, art movements. For me, that was a big, I think, pull. So I actually launched my own collection. I haven't listed it, but I launched my own collection back in 2021, late 2021, just to understand. When I first jumped in, there weren't any videos, there weren't any articles, there wasn't any TikToks, none of that as to how to do this. So I actually went on to OpenSea myself and launched my own collection just to understand how to do it and how to help others understand how to do it as well. And that was essentially the birth, my idea to kind of move into Web3. And so the following year, February 2022, I launched, and here we are.
Well, perfect segue to ask you as well about Venus Ventures. But first, it's exciting to hear that you've been in the space for a few years because, we speak to everything from the OGs that have been in it for 10 years to people that have been into it much more recently, as I have, frankly. Just it certainly takes inspiration and courage to step into this, exciting but, somewhat complex world so quickly. So congratulations. So Venus Ventures, the way I understand it, it feels like it's several things. To me, it feels like it's part incubator, part sort of promoting art and NFTs, part also very focused on, promoting women in the space and diversity in general. Are all those correct? And why don't you tell us a bit more about it?
Sure. So when I initially launched, it was Venusverse. I launched as Venusverse because I had come when I was doing my research, I had come across a statistic in the Globe and Mail from 2018 that indicated 4% of women in Canada were in the crypto NFT and Web3 space, and 96% of men were in the same exact space. So obviously for me, having been in the tech industry for a very long time, understanding the issues we have around getting women into tech. That was a massive gap for me. So what I really wanted to do was jump in immediately and, like I said, help teach women more about Web3, help them understand what it is, help them understand this whole world that's being built out there, and that they needed to be a part of it, quite honestly, because, it's all about, we're building, what Web3 is a new world that we're building for everybody. So we need, men and women equally in this space to make sure to get multiple perspectives. We need multiple perspectives from across the world. So that was initially my goal to do while working towards building an incubator, which has always been part of my roadmap, that we launched in September, essentially, so late September. So I wanted to do that and get that going. And, thankfully, the movement started going and a lot more women got into the space. So I was able to transition to an incubator of all, we a digital incubator, essentially. And that's what we are right now. So what we do is essentially three things. One is we educate around Web3 because, as you know, Web3 is not just about decentralizing, which I have a very different perspective on that, by the way. I'm sure we'll get to it. But it's also about ensuring that we are all kind of in this space together and that we're all doing the right thing. So it's a big mindset shift, too, that a lot of us are not conditioned to think about. So education, strategy, helping organizations understand how they can jump into this world, how they can grow in this world, and of course the mindset that comes with it. The second thing we do, to your point, is an incubator. So we are a digital incubator. We do have, it's a global incubator from across the world. So we're represented from all over the world, including obviously Canada, US, UK, Dubai, Lebanon, South Africa, Brussels, Spain. So we actually have a global incubator that we have put together. And we get together once every 2 weeks, and we have basically an hour of thought leadership. I have a legal roundtable every month, just so my community can benefit from legal advice from our lawyers. And I bring in different topics, essentially. But the whole idea behind that is to build an ecosystem of Web3 and emerging tech companies and entrepreneurs and help them grow. And then the last thing we do is I'm a big ideas person. So I've been able to identify 10 big societal problems that can be solved through Web3 and emerging technology. And the idea is we want to activate those 10 problems. So we've already activated 2. 1 is on the way as well, so 3. But the idea is to kind of work together to help build a better world and help, ensuring that social good and that we're building for a better world is at the core of everything we do. And the idea is that the ecosystem, this plugs into the ecosystem so that, hopefully we can get our Web3 companies and talent, to come into these projects with us and help them grow that way as well. So that's kind of all around what we do. So the ecosystem works together.
I'd love to ask you to just list the titles of those 10 problems that Web3 can solve. Just really the titles, and we'll put them on screen.
So I will list 3.
Okay.
3 different areas.
The top ones.
Just because the ones we're activating. I'd rather list the ones we're activating if you're good with that. So one is within arts and culture. So the whole idea is we've actually gone in, and I can say this openly, we've gone in for federal funding with our local museum. And the whole idea is to help them digitize for their 20th anniversary, around their 20th anniversary, which they're celebrating this year. They started off as a children's museum. They've grown to an incredible museum within Canada, not just locally. So what we want to do is help digitize them. And while doing so, enable the marginalized and the disabled who usually don't have access to arts and culture to be able to access it through metaverse, for example, and other different means. The second thing is a healthcare one, and that is designed to help solve some of our biggest healthcare issues in Canada that is unfortunately hurting our healthcare system right now. So I do have a number of participants around the table for that, and we're hoping to move forward on that one as well. That one, it's a big one. It's a good one. So we're looking to go in for funding for that as well, and we've already been having conversations around that. And the last one's around education. So one of the things I always talk about is how, especially for our children, what I'd love to do is gamify experiences for our children to be able to have cross-cultural exposure. So I'm 44. Back in my day, we used to have pen pals. So it's a similar concept, but the whole idea is being able to be exposed to other cultures across the world and to create empathy and awareness amongst our kids. So that is one of our biggest problems. This is a global movement. We all have to I think, be more empathetic to one another and more accepting of one another culturally. So that is one, and it will be gamified. So that is another one that I'm activating as well.
I love that last one. I love all of them. But the third one, I always used to say that, if I ever became president, I come from France, one of the first things I would do is I would mandate or at least give the option to youth to do maybe like some kind of civil service far away from their home. And in the Canadian context, that could even be within Canada. I think that could do such wonders for, connectivity and maybe my idea has passed and maybe it needs to happen in the Web3 space. Speaking of which, so we had this discussion with the team a few days ago about, what the difference is between blockchain and Web3 and, cryptocurrencies. We talked with Alex Tapscott recently. His view was that at the end of the day, they're all a bit synonymous with some variations. But since Web3 is a big focus for you, I'd like to give you an opportunity to define Web3. And if possible, could you try to do it under 30 seconds before maybe telling us a little bit more? We love to share these little, shorts basically on social.
For sure. So my Web3, the Web3 that we're building, which is very different, by the way, than other methodologies out there, is a very inclusive environment, a very global environment, where basically what we want to do is help every individual, every entrepreneur within this space, within Web3 and emerging tech, entrepreneurialize and grow globally. So the small to medium businesses, especially the entrepreneurs, the people who really don't have a shot, in this current system, what we want to do is enable them to move globally and to operate globally, but ensuring that we're always operating with the best of intentions and that it's always focused on good actors and social good. So we have to build a better world. There is no other way right now than to build a better world.
That's great. What a wonderful definition that isn't too technical and actually I think might inspire more people than if it was. So going a little bit deeper, could you speak a little bit to how you see Web3 or the role you see it play in creating a more equitable and inclusive society? Because I think some people might sort of hesitate and say, well, technology can also be quite exclusive in some cases.
Yeah. Well, especially for women in this space, right? So I think a lot of women that I've come across throughout all of this have been very intimidated by the notion of Web3. But really what it is an upskill and reskill. It's really trying to figure out what you do now and how to apply it to a whole other world. But I would even encourage people to basically take a step back and focus on your purpose. So what I love to encourage entrepreneurs to do is focus on their purpose and really what they want to see within this world. Because quite honestly, it should all be centered around us. What I love and what I believe in is centering the tech around the human, not the human around the tech, which is kind of speaks to Web3, right? Right now, the human is centered around the tech. It's a very centralized environment. What Web3 typically is a decentralized environment where basically there is no presence of central entities. What I believe in my personal methodology is that it's important to remember that behind these central entities, there are humans. There are humans who have families, And so if we start to eliminate central entities, we're also eliminating certain parts of the human population. We have to come to terms with that. Whether it's government, whether it's banks, whether it's academia, whether it's healthcare, whatever it might be, they can't be left behind. So the whole idea and the methodology behind what we do at Venus Ventures, my personal methodology is building a better world together. Like, how can we all work together, operate for with the best of intentions, break some conditioning that we're conditioned to operate within right now. We're not conditioned to operate for ourselves. We're conditioned to operate for other entities. So break some of the conditioning, ensuring that we're always standing up for what's right, because things have to change. Things won't change unless we're taking, number one, bad actors are called out, to be honest, and that, we're basically coming together and talking about building a better world together, and we have to do it collectively. Otherwise, it won't work. So our methodology, my personal methodology, is bringing all entities together around the table to build together and to build for a better world together. And here in Canada, especially, for me, it's about, startup, scale up, academia, enterprise, government, nonprofits, you name it, all coming together and building the right thing for Canada first, and then ensuring that it's the right thing for humanity so that we can also lead by example as a country.
I love it. Well, Canada First is in our mission statement. We're very much oriented towards the world. Blockchain, Web3 is inherently decentralized and global, but we do like the little shout out to Canada. So that's great. Speaking of which, a quick shout out to our audience. If you're enjoying this interview, please give us a like. We'd appreciate it. Please follow the channel if you don't already. And make sure to stay till the end, because we will be asking Janelle for her predictions, and no, who doesn't want predictions these days? So to go even a little bit further, could you maybe share some of the most exciting use cases you see, specific use cases you see for Web3 technology besides just crypto and NFTs?
So yeah, I think I wouldn't mind talking a little about NFT technology, because it is a technology. So a lot of people see it as crypto assets, which it is, but at the same time, it's a technology that's incredible, that's going to enable us to do so much. And whether we know it or not, soon enough, we're all going to be working with NFTs. Okay. So I think some of the greatest use cases, well, obviously, aside from from artists, for example, being able to get their work out globally to their followers, to not have to go through any other entities that will take a big portion, of their own passion and art, where it basically allows them to globalize. So from an art perspective, I love that, because again, the starving artist syndrome is a real thing. So what we want them to do, especially the people that are here to make the world better and more beautiful, we want to encourage them to get their work out globally. I think especially if you think about membership cards, for example, our NFT started off as art. What I've tried to do with our NFT collection is show the use cases from how it can be art, and then how that art can also be used in multi-dimensional ways. So, for example, I have a more open licensing agreement for our NFTs, which allows any of our NFT holders to be able to use that and entrepreneurialize with it, whether they want to create merch or an AI, whatever it is they'd like to do with it. But this is their piece of art that's been validated. And then now what we're going to be doing is using those as to token gate into our metaverse. So we do have a metaverse as part of our digital incubator, and into our community. So again, now it's being able to use for validation and token gating. So what we want to do is continue to evolve that to show people how this can all be used as a technology on the blockchain, obviously, which is an incredible technology in and of itself. So aside from that, I would say, there are awesome, a couple actually examples now of homes being sold across the world, as deeds. Their NFTs are deeds. And so what that enables them is essentially not having to go through all the loopholes we jump through right now to buy a home. If we think about our process in North America, you need to, obviously, your credit score, you need to go to the bank, lawyer, all those other pieces. What this has enabled these individuals to do is sell wallet to wallet and essentially keep a lot of that money for themselves. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that has to go into it in the real world, but it's enabled them to sell wallet to wallet. So this is the beauty of what NFT, and it's on the blockchain. It's recorded on the blockchain, and there'll be many more examples of this. If you think about healthcare, for me, digital ID or soul-bound NFTs in some way, or some iteration of soul-bound NFTs. I do understand that there's probably another technology that's being built around this specifically for digital ID. But universities, academia, soul-bound NFTs, this is your new diploma. I can use a perfect example for myself. I've traveled and been lucky enough and fortunate enough to travel and live in different parts of the world. With me has always come my diplomas, where I've had to roll it up and put it back into. So, I have to take that with me everywhere. But if it's on the blockchain, my diploma was issued on the blockchain and I have that, as a record on the blockchain, I don't have to worry about taking it everywhere with me. It's recorded somewhere. So these are just a few examples that hopefully will enlighten people to the amazing technology that NFTs are. So I actually think NFTs and blockchain technology will help us do a lot more things as individuals with an official public accounting process, obviously, and will help us basically entrepreneurialize ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And that aspect of, being truly mobile geographically across the globe, carrying your ID, carrying not just your records like your diplomas or your health records, but also your assets, in the future. You're very passionate about NFTs. So I want to actually challenge you to define an NFT in literally 15 seconds or maybe 30 seconds, but really in a language that, let's say, a 12-year-old would understand. Are you able to do that? I don't know if you have a 12-year-old at home, by the way. But
I can try. So what I would describe NFT, it is a JPEG, but it's also a smart contract, right? So the beauty of NFTs is it does sit on the blockchain, but the smart contract is what will operate automatically on the back end, right? So that is what you basically code how you want this NFT to act. So I see NFTs to be the future receipts. And if you think about, if you want to think about authenticity, and I'm going a little bit past this, but this is another moment that I think is important to highlight. If you want to think about authenticity, if you think about luxury handbags, for example, they always have knockoffs. People are always producing their stuff. But if they sell their items on the blockchain as an NFT, what that does is help to ensure the authenticity. And so they can then have a digital asset that they can use anywhere in the metaverse that is of this brand, but they can also receive the physical asset. So what the NFT does is basically validate in the digital world, but then it can also be converted to a receipt of something that you have in the physical world.
I'm going to challenge you again. Do you have children, by the way?
I do. I have two.
You have two. How old are they?
11 and 9.
Perfect. I said 12. So how would you explain a 10-year-old just in between? How would you explain your kids what an NFT is? Again, in 15, 20 seconds, really simple. Because I'm not sure they'd understand JPEG, smart contract. Well, maybe your kids do, but maybe not all kids
Well,
would.
my kids are building in the metaverse. My kids are both in Roblox, and they build in Roblox, which is essentially the metaverse.
But what about a kid who's into, let's say, gaming, for example?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, he's they're all digitally native, but doesn't know what an NFT is.
Yeah. So I think what an NFT will be to kids is some sort of tied to themselves as either avatars, or if we're gamifying. For example, if we're gamifying, you will need an NFT to gamify. So what it is an actual token, non-fungible token, obviously one of one on the blockchain. No other of its kind can exist, which obviously hones in on authenticity. So what it is essentially a way to verify in an authentication process that is recorded on a blockchain, decentralized platform that ties a certain asset, a crypto asset, to its original holder, to its holder.
Yeah, it's obviously not easy. Thanks a lot for playing along. Appreciate it. But it's great. It's always great to hear how people would present it. I mean, we get lots of different, vantage points and definitions. So switching, sort of moving along and asking you a couple of maybe more precise questions than previously. You started your career in the last couple of years in the space. What advice would you give, yourself starting, or let's say someone starting today in the Web3 industry about their career, where they should look, what they should learn, etc.?
Yeah, there's a few things that I usually, when I'm asked this question, there's a few pieces of advice I give. First and foremost, again, remember, this is a global movement that's supposed to, my opinion, this is how we build it at Venus Ventures, to center the tech around the human. So what you really want to do is hone in on your purpose. And I use a simple statistic to highlight this, right? So from one human being to another, right? From you to me, Flo, from you to anybody else on this planet, from me to anybody else on this planet, 99.9% of our DNA is exactly the same as human beings, right? Only 0.1% of our DNA is different. And what I tell people about that, number one, think about that statistic, from a global perspective, right?
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's incredible. But what I tell people is that 0.1% is where your purpose lies. That to me is what your soul was sent here on earth to do. That is what you're supposed to be doing. That is where you find your happiness. That is where you find your essentially what drives you. So what you want to do is focus on that. What you want to do is ensure that you're centering the tech and your purpose in Web3 and your mission in Web3, anything you want to do around your own purpose, because that is how you truly entrepreneurialize. We want purposeful entrepreneurs moving forward, right? We want people who are building for a purpose and for a mission. That's the only way we're going to be able to build for a better world. So that's one thing. Make sure to center it around your purpose. Number two, protect your IP at all costs, right? So this is a brand new world that we're entering into. And again, it's not the same as the world we've been conditioned to live in right now. These are new systems, right, that we're, and new mentality and new mindsets. So, for example, central entities won't always intuitively understand this because they're, the way we're conditioned, not all, but the way we're conditioned, the way central entities work is essentially to take a lot of this stuff and be able to repurpose it and to be able to make money off of it, right? To stay ahead. This is kind of, so what you want to do, especially as a Canadian entrepreneur, because we struggle a little bit with this in Canada. I know government has, basically identified this, and they've already put funding towards helping Canadian companies protect their IP. What you want to do, especially as an early adopter, is protect your IP. Because again, I'm an ideas person. We should be getting paid for our data in Web3. So anytime you use an AI, in my opinion, especially the big ones, including and especially the big ones that are centralized, that we don't know what they're using it for, that may not be using it for all the right purposes, we should be getting paid for that. That's what Web3 is about, getting paid for your data. And what I would even add further to that is definitely getting paid for your IP, all of it, every single aspect of IP. I'm an ideas person. I want to be paid for my ideas, So this is what you really need to do as an entrepreneur, especially a Canadian entrepreneur. Protect your IP. Make sure that, no one is infringing upon it. Make sure that you're moving forward and protecting it so that you can grow, especially as an early adopter and a thought leader in this space, right? And then I would say the last one, and it's a hard one, is no fear. To your point, Flo, it is a very daunting space, especially when women hear Web3 and tech, they get very intimidated by it, but it's not a world we should be intimidated by because it is another mindset. Again, it's upskilling and reskilling. It's finding what you do now or what you want to do and building that into a whole new system and into a whole new world. So no fear is a big part of that, and it's not easy. And especially, the bad actors in this space. I'm going to take a second to call this one out. Again, we are not conditioned to think the way Web3 is being built. It is a mindset shift. So there will be bad actors in the space. There will be bad actors that try and take your IP. There will be bad actors that, basically don't want to see you succeed. What we want to do and what we need to do is actually call that out. That is the only way we will see change. If we don't actually start standing up to this, and you're seeing it on a global scale, by the way, and it's not something new that I'm talking about. There's a lot that's being uncovered right now globally, that's really addressing a lot of the bad acting, and it needs to continue. And especially in Web3, with us, we're bound by a social contract in Venus Ventures. There's no room for bad actors where we're going. So what we want to do is bring everyone who's building for the better and with the right intentions along. And it's not to say the bad actors won't turn, but at the same time, you really want to make sure. We need to, and it's not easy, and it takes a lot of bravery. I'm living proof of it, but you have to do it. Otherwise, nothing will change. We will end up in the same place that we are right now. And quite honestly, we're not killing it as a planet. We're not doing a great job on any level, not politically, not socially, not economically. Look at where we are right now. We need to change. It has to change. So that is my other piece of advice.
Well, and on that last one, one of the things that came to my mind is, we say, and I think for the most part, we are an inclusive industry and we want to be, and the technology in a sense is designed to be more inclusive. But I think what scares a lot of people is the fact that, the industry is kind of at the intersection of technology and, kind of like cutting edge technology, as well as finance for a good part of it. Personally, I have a background in neither of those fields. But I'm interested in business, I'm interested in content, I'm interested in convening people, and that's why we created Blockchain North. We don't pretend to be experts. We're building our expertise. We, have a team now, and but I think there's a need for more than just developers and finance wizards. There's a need for conveners, there's a need for events, there's a need for, people that have a sort of a human focus as you do. So. I think that's a very important message to remind people who are listening and who maybe are looking at this industry, considering it. So, a couple of final questions. I'd love to ask you for some of your favorite projects in Web3, other than yours, of course. What are things that you're watching, whether they're crypto projects or otherwise, now, or maybe things that are coming up?
I'm going to be totally honest with you right now. I believe in focus, right? So although I absolutely there are projects out there. Look, the way Web3 launched, it didn't necessarily launch with the best actors in the space, right? Especially with some of these projects that we talk about. So I don't really talk about other projects because, I know what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build best practices as best as I can so that others can learn from it. I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case of some of the other projects of the past, and that's not everybody. There's a ton out there that are doing a ton of good things. But for me, what's more exciting, instead of focusing on the projects, what I'd love to do is focus on the potential for this space. There is so much potential for all of us to live in a very different world that's designed very differently with new systems, because quite honestly, these systems are not working. I mean, we don't need any more proof than what's happening right now that these systems are not working. So as opposed to projects, what I see is potential for, what this can actually do for the world. And it is massive change, and again, a lot of people are not going to be for it. It's not going to be comfortable, but that's really what I focus on. And I also don't really look at what's happening necessarily with other projects, because what I'm focused on building ours, right? What we're doing. And I would say we're definitely more of an ecosystem and an incubator than a project. But our NFTs are an aspect of what we're doing, right?
Very fair response. And finally, and I hope you can answer that one a bit more precisely, is what are some of your most confident predictions for crypto and for Web3 in the coming years? I would say predictions or even convictions, but what do you see on the horizon? Again, everyone wants to have a sense of what's lying ahead, right?
So I would say, as a whole, for Web3, my predictions is a lot of what I've highlighted right now. I don't think DAOs necessarily are in the right space right now. The way DAOs are designed, there has to be some sort of oversight. There has to be some sort of regulation. I don't want my kids going into the metaverse without regulation, period. Right? There has to be regulation from government too with regards to, crypto, but without stifling innovation, right? Without stifling innovation, so that we can build comfortably without having to worry about where things are at, right? There has to be that as well. So there does have to be an element of that. And DAOs aren't necessarily, I think, right now structured to succeed fully, but they will be. They definitely will be. And when I think of the future of the workplace, when I think of future of governments, when I think of future of really anything, they can all be built like a DAO. And if you think about, again, centering the tech around the human, you become part of something that you're building, right? And so I love, I think DAOs definitely will have a lot of potential, not right now the way they are, but down the road. And then I would definitely say, with regards to crypto, I mean, look, there are failed states all across the world right now that are suffering. There are some failed states, but there are countries right now that are suffering where people are not even able to access money within the banks. So, these are issues. These are issues, the money that these people work their entire lives for, they cannot access through the banks. So what crypto does is actually allow you to custody your own stuff, which is very important. As a basic human right, we should be able to own our own stuff, I personally think. So that will enable us to basically be more I think, independent in many ways and be able to make a lot more decisions. But again, regulation has to come with that, because there only has to be good acting in this space, right? It's not black and white, right? There has to be a hybrid of all the worlds coming together, essentially. So I see potential really for every aspect of Web3, DAOs, crypto, blockchain, of course, to not only bring the world together, but bring it together differently, where we work together differently, where we operate together differently, and where honestly we all have a very similar voice, which is how it should be, which is actually how it should be, which is not what a lot of people want to hear. Well, at least not a lot of the central entities, but at the same time, my goal is to bring them along so that we're not leaving anybody behind and we're building for the better of the world, essentially.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to finish this interview that flew by, of course, but bettering the world was definitely a central topic in this conversation, and obviously in your mission. Thanks a lot. I, by the way, really appreciated your time and your insights. Again, you definitely have a distinct, unique, and indeed female voice in this space that we love to hear and want to hear more about. In fact, we're working on a series of women in Canadian blockchain, which we won't say more about right now. Before we let you go, where can people find you, by the way? We'll link some of those things on screen or in the description. Anything you want to point to?
Yes, sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me, Flo. Thank you very much to you and your team, and also for enabling women in this space, because I know you've talked about this before. So thank you for highlighting us and bringing attention to that. Where you can find me, so LinkedIn, obviously, I'm still on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So that's the first place I would say. Obviously, our website, www.venusventures.io. And then obviously you can contact us through that. And feel free to reach out to me anywhere. We have Instagram handle. We also have our Twitter handle as well.
Awesome. Well, as I said, we'll link as much of it. A big part of what we're trying to do is also to kind of promote what's happening in Canada, leaders, ideas, projects, etc. So fantastic. Of course, a huge thank you to everyone for watching us, especially those who stayed till the end. If you enjoyed this interview, make sure to give us a like, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on a mission with Blockchain North to inform, educate, and inspire people about blockchain, and also to give Canada a voice. So all the support we can get is hugely appreciated. Share this interview and send us your comments, by the way. What did you like? What did you not like? What would you like to see next time? This all helps us a lot on our journey. That's basically it for us. You can find us on YouTube, where you're watching this right now, on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. We're going to be growing these channels a lot in the coming period. Janelle, thanks again, and a real pleasure having you. Thanks, everybody.
Likewise. Thank you, Flo.